Hi, this is Julian for Production Expert. I've got a drum recording here. I've been using an old friend and something that doesn't get spoken about quite as much as it might do, the Oxford drum gate. What it is it's a really nice drum recording. It sounds like this. Loads of options in here. But the thing about it is, just because you've set a mic doesn't mean you have to use it. And actually, there's an awful lot going on here. Actually, I'd like a much simpler sound. Now, going through these, I've got some really nice overheads here. These are Austrian Audio OC microphones, and they sound really sweet. They're lovely, and they're good basis for a drum sound, but I want to support the kick a little bit. Now, I've got some choices on the kick. I've got a kick in there, and I've got this one here as well, actually. But this is the one that really caught my attention. This is on the batter head with a Josephson mic, and it sounds really nice. Nice and natural, and that's kind of what I wanted. I like a natural kick drum sometimes. But there's tons and tons of snare all over it, as there would be, considering it's on the batter side of the head. What I've used is the Oxford drum gate, which is an old friend, doesn't get spoken about quite as much as it should do, really, because it does something that's just magic. It uses this AI to just listen to what's coming in and decide, is this a kick? Is this a snare? Is this a tom? And you don't have to do all of that messing about with thresholds and filtering and all those tricks that we very often end up doing or just editing out on the timeline. None of that. So all I'm going to do with the default setting is just set a kick. Well, that's job done. I mean, there might be the occasional false trigger, which you can deal with by going remove matched. I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, great. I've got exactly what I'm looking for. I can come in here and I can maybe lengthen out the decay a little. This is frequency specific, so you can have a different length of decay in some areas of the spectrum compared to others. And if I wanted to, I can either pull it out altogether, have a hard gate that pulls it all the way down, or I can have rather less. So I can just kind of emphasize. And even something like that, it's still doing an awful lot, but it's going to mitigate those side effects. Let's go all the way down in this case. I'm not worried about that at all. But like that, pop that in with those overheads. How cool is that? Lovely, lovely natural kick drum. I can bring it up, beef things up a bit, take it down, whatever, but it sits perfectly. And if I just listen to all of that rubbish that I'm losing using the Oxford drum gate, fantastic thing. I'll leave that poking up a little bit, actually. Great. So, proves the point, really, and that was doing pretty much nothing. Now, taking things a little bit further, I've got some other options here. I mean, I've got these overheads, but I've also got a couple of room mics. This one, nice bit of space around there. And I've also got this big room, which is using a lovely ribbon. Well, that could be fun. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to gate out the snare out of that and sit it on top of the snare. So I have those close overheads with a bit of space around the snare with some contribution coming from this big room mic. So, same deal again. Actually, there's a bit of colour on there. It's quite, when the snare comes in, you'll hear it's a little bit, got a bit of a pock to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that out. Now that's in low mids. Pull that down, around about here. Pull that out. I'm going to pull that out. We'll take that bypass first. But actually, I'm going to go to type 2. There are 4 different EQ types in the Oxford EQ. Type 1 and type 2 are both kind of SSL-y, but the difference is that in type 2, you've got a narrower Q in cut than you do in boost. If I bring this up, it's relatively wide. But if I bring it down, you'll see it narrows down. That is not the case in type 1, which you'll see is much basically same up as it is down. So I'm going to go for type 2 because this is like a narrow thing. And how much do we need? Wait for that snare to actually start hitting. Quite a lot, actually. There's that congestion. That's much better. Okay, so we'll go with that. And then going into this Oxford Drumgate, here I've selected snare. Not done a great deal else to it. Okay. Now we're not losing everything because I'm only reducing the gain a little bit. If I take everything out, of course we can do that, but I don't really need to do that. I just want it to sit behind it. And I've just moved this a little bit just to bracket where the decay of the meter that is. All I've done. But on its own, it sounds slightly daft. But if we pop that back in with those overheads and bring it in. So nice crisp snare. If you want something a little bit meatier with some more space to it. Okay, and then pop that back in with that kick drum. Last thing that I've done is I've just popped a little bit of compression on there. I'm using the classic comp type, which is kind of, it's not exactly anything in particular, but it is loosely DBX 160-ish. And just a little bit of that coming in. So popping that in context with everything else. Bit too much of that rim. That's a nice drum sound. I like that. And if we take those drum gates out, everything's a little bit better behaved, less rattle, all of that stuff, and certainly a very, very different sound to what we had before, which was this.